by some of the conference organizers here that some other conferences, maybe in Stockholm, people like to do workshops. They like to move around. And at this conference, historically, for many years, people like to sit and watch. I was told. They don't like to, I was told, move around or do workshops. And then I was asked, would you please do a workshop? So I thought how to fit the situation. The idea is I'll show you first so you can watch it like a movie, and I'll try to do the workshop for you to start. And then I'll invite you to either watch round 2 or actually do it. And so it depends on your level of interest and coffee, etc. The topic is, when I joined as an employee, I was really surprised by how much AI there was in the factories that I worked with every day, and people didn't talk about it. It wasn't anything special. It was simply what to do. Like, imagine getting in a car and seeing the speedometer, so you have this feedback of how fast you're going, and none of the other cars around you have that somehow. So you have this very maybe valuable thing, how fast you're going, and somehow all the other cars around you have to guess how fast they're going. And then the second weird thing about that is, imagine no one seems to think that speedometer in your car is any kind of a big deal. The people who sold it to you are like, yeah, and here's a car. And your friends get in and they don't notice. And you go, am I the only one that notices that this car tells me how fast it's going and none of the other cars do, and no one is talking about it? That was the feeling I had about how AI was being used in Tesla in 2020. There was a lot of AI use. In fact, I couldn't work. I don't think any of us could without it. And we didn't even talk about it. It was just the way we worked. And the reason that we could work with it without talking about it is it was on monitors. The visualizations were on monitors right above head height, about every 3 meters on a grid through the entire factories. So it's always there. Then there were tablets on pedestals under them. And you really couldn't complete any work without interacting with the AI. And I never went through AI training. There was no handbook. No one even talked to me. Well, a few times I was trying to figure out what to do on the tablet, on the pedestal, and people would pair with me. When I retired from Tesla, I wondered how I would communicate that work style to anyone. And I realized there wasn't a name for that work style that I knew. And then I saw Woody Zuhl do a workshop on mob programming. So for software development specifically, doing it as a group, all the brilliant minds in one place working on the same thing at the same time. And in Woody Zuhl's format, one person would describe what to do, and someone else would do it. The person who was doing the programming, in that case, wasn't allowed to do it. They had to respond to what someone told them. That way everybody could hear and react to the idea in the time it was being developed. So Woody had a rule, is an idea has to travel through the air and then be listened to before it's coded. Now, we didn't have that rule at Tesla, and we weren't always programming. We did some programming, but we were also programming robots to build cars and physically building cars. But I noticed many times people did say, and then the group did the work. The closest thing I've seen still to the work style in Tesla was Woody Zuhl's workshops, but with a lot more AI. So to say thanks to Woody and all the people who've done mob development, I put a name on it. I called it MobAI, and I'd like you to see it. I'll try to simulate it here, and then I'll invite you to play along. And to help me explain it, there's a monkey wearing a graduation hat. The monkey and I will say, MobAI team collaboration. When we add AI, let me check if this is the first step. Okay. When we add AI to Woody's format, the ability to think together remains the team's competitive advantage over doing AI work alone. When I see AI use in companies now, it's usually a person working one-on-one with AI. It's not group human work. It's usually one human and one or more AI agents. Well, why would you have more than one human at a time? Better solutions are still emerging from a group of humans supported by AI. For example, perspectives we might not notice alone emerge with human group work. And misunderstandings and differences in perception are resolved right away on the spot. And learning circulates right at that moment. So if I have one human working with AI, they're learning and the AI is learning, but only that one human and that AI agent know that new learning. With a group of humans, maybe 3, and AI, the whole group of humans learns that thing, gets that experience. So that prevents knowledge from being tied to individuals. So what is mob work, the essence that doesn't change whether we add AI or not? It's thinking about the same problem in the same workspace, maybe if you're using a screen, the same screen. And it builds deep understanding with multiple people, and knowledge is less likely to become person-dependent. And feedback circulates immediately. And of course, that's not limited only to programming. That works if we're working with a supplier to resolve an issue or any type of work problem. It is precisely this type of team collaboration that improves both speed and quality. Mob is a development style in which the entire team does the same work on the same screen at the same time. It can be done offline or online. Online, the team works while sharing a single screen using remote desktop or virtual desktop or similar. I'd like to try to play a video. We'll see if my internet connection here is still up. From a company called Hunter near Silicon Valley in California in the United States. I think you'll get a great sense of what a great mob environment feels like. And let's see. And that is not, there's a few problems here. Okay, I have broken the internet. There we go, maybe. There's no sound. Hunter makes hardware and software, actually, but in this video, we're seeing the software development teams. They start out with an hour of code kata together, which gets them warmed up for the group work for the day and helps build skills. All the brilliant minds working on the same thing at the same time in the same space and at the same computer. That's part of Woody Zuhl's definition. Now, because they're working together, they don't have most of the Scrum ceremonies or Scrum events or the Scrum activity or any of that, because they're together. At Hunter, at least at this time, they were still doing retrospective, though. They still did retrospectives. They're doing continuous integration and continuous deployment, and they are deploying to production multiple times a day, which is a great success for Agile. They do still have product owners, and the product owners spend part of each day working in the mobs. And I've joined remotely some mobs at Hunter, and the programmers did seem happy. Like they actually were cheerful people, was my impression. They also have breath mints. And the rule is if someone offers you a breath mint, you say yes. The teams choose how many minutes between the next person plays the role of driver, and that depends on the type of work they're doing. What they want is to make sure whoever's playing driver experiences success before the next person takes over as driver, so everyone gets that ego boost, or maybe that's the wrong word, that sense of satisfaction. And a good rule is everyone takes turns playing driver, even if you're not good at it. And that actually reduces embarrassment over time. When I worked in Silicon Valley at consulting to Dropbox and at Facebook, they also had everything on wheels, really everything. And that let the people doing the work define their physical space more than when you had an office layout expert create the space for you. Same at Tesla. Groups would often come together and then separate again during the day when needed. Okay, so I think you've got an idea. Now, that company actually does only virtual work now. They're all online. But I think it's easier to see and maybe understand how the mobs work by seeing an older video of when they had an office. You can absolutely do mob remotely, and then it's video chat, video on, camera on, and one person takes turns. The driver shares their screen as they develop. And when the next driver, the next doer, rotates through, they share their screen, working remotely in the same environment. Well, now we have some idea of what mob is. What's MobAI? And here to help me explain it is a tiger wearing a graduation hat. And the tiger and I say, MobAI is a concept that I proposed in 2023 when I was guessing that there could be an increase in AI use with group work. And my goal to try to explain it was it should amplify human strengths, like human judgments and creativity. And I hope it takes advantage of some of AI's strength, like rapid generation and quality support. Combining these in the same setting is my goal with MobAI. MobAI avoids replacing humans. For me, that's important. There's other AI styles that have different goals, and some of them might be effective, but they make me sad. When I hear Mark Zuckerberg at Facebook talk about how many more people they can lay off because of their excellent use of AI, I get sad. So I have intentionally tried to craft MobAI so it doesn't function without humans. And instead, it helps strengthen humans so humans are worth employing for longer. Here's how I've tried to do that. MobAI avoids replacing humans because we speed up and increase the quality of human work. For example, generate code and CAD and ideas rapidly, instantly produce a large number of test cases, TDD, test-driven development, that works in embedded software, app software, but also hardware. It works in 3D modeling design and virtual crash testing, and present multiple alternative proposals at the same time. MobAI has 3 roles. Now, at Tesla, I did not experience 3 roles. I added these based on what I saw from Woody Zuhl, because it seemed to help make it easier to get started. But in Tesla, I did not experience these 3 roles. The first role is the person who does the work. And this could be an AI agent or AI agents, or it could be a human. I'll call them the driver, the executor. They take action and carry out work according to the navigator's instructions. So they listen to what the navigator tells them, and they try to do it. They leave mechanical, routine, or high-speed processing to the AI, writing code, proposing refactoring options, compiling documentation, etc. Humans seem, still in 2026, stronger at contextual understanding and judgment and fine-grained revisions. For example, when the AI's proposals are incomplete or deep context and domain knowledge are required. The second role can also be an AI agent, or it could also be a human. I'll call them the navigator. They're deciding what we do. They're deciding what direction to take. I encourage whoever's the navigator to ask everyone for opinions, because it's more fun and we learn more and it keeps people engaged, and usually it makes better solutions. Evaluate AI's proposals, and of those proposals, decide on what we're going to build next. What's the direction? Humans take the lead on value judgment and constraint decisions. Now, if there's more than 2 people, and I think it's best with 3 to 5, if you're not the driver and you're not the navigator, I'll ask you to play the MobAI. So that could be 1, 2, or 3 humans. They provide decision-making material to the navigator. They provide advice. They help find KPIs or measurements. They provide ideas. They might ask AI questions on their phone or their laptop to gather design proposals, tests, perspectives, and alternative ideas. They detect AI mistakes and hallucinations and have it regenerate before they propose it to the navigator. So often they're prompting. They're doing prompt engineering. And many times, whatever AI you're working with doesn't know everything about your problem space. Not yet anyway, not in 2026. So many times the person playing the MobAI is telling things to the AI, so the AI has better decision-making information. They're doing fact collection. When I was in Tesla, there'd often be a person physically connecting sensors or adding cameras or pointing cameras so the AI could get better information to assist us better. We have these 3 roles, and in the rule I will propose is everyone takes a turn playing each of the roles. We rotate through, even if you're not good at it. So if you were drawing the 3D model of an air conditioning system, you would still play the driver even if you've never done it before. And the navigator would, if they need to, tell you exactly what to do. And the MobAIs would help encourage you. So this is definitely a chance for humans to be as empathetic and kind and patient as possible, because whoever's the driver changes. Here's an example. And in Japan, I work with Tomoko Sensei and Miho Sensei, and I'll pretend they're here, so I can pretend to have a whole MobAI team. In this case, it'll be 3 humans supported by AI. The exercise that I will ask you to play next, the workshop, but I'll do it first in front of you, or I'll try to. The objective, experience and understand the 3 roles of MobAI, the driver, the navigator, and the MobAI practically. And understand what benefits an agile team brings to the business. Now, the MobAI format, we can use it to weld metal. One person welding, the other person giving instructions, the third person measuring the weld and checking with AI on how to measure the weld. We can use MobAI for procurement problems, tax audits, anything. In the workshop, you can try to solve any problem you want with MobAI. In this example, I'll try to do something that I hope most of you think is fun. I will try to make a story of explaining the benefit agile teams bring to a business. I think that's familiar to many of you, and I'll try to do it in an entertaining way. I try to time box MobAI and then have people have a chance to take a break. For the exercise, maybe we'll do 20 minutes and then show off whatever we built with each other, maybe. Step 1, you'll decide roles. I hope people sitting near you. I hope you get 3 humans. Rotate you decide, maybe 3 minutes. Who's doing the thing, who's suggesting, who's asking AI questions or getting advice. It does not have to be long. Short and to the point is fine. Then you can do this in any language you want. But whenever you're done with your workshop session, please use a machine translation to English so I can look at it too. The driver, they're going to actually do the work. I'll model that first. And they refine expressions, and they try to understand the context and make minor edits. Whoever you decide is your first navigator, they're going to decide what to do. Are you going to model someone's dream cabin? Are you going to do what I did, make a story of the benefit an Agile team brings to a business? Or are you going to try to solve some real problem at your work or write software? The navigator will decide that. If you're the MobAI, you'll be listening to the navigator and prompting with AI to try to provide useful information or useful ideas or fact check. Try not to interrupt the navigator, but try to politely and quietly suggest things to the navigator or prepare things the navigator might want. Try to be useful to them. Now, you don't get to tell the driver what to do when you're the MobAI. There's one navigator at a time to try to prevent confusion, but you do rotate the navigator. So the goal could change during the course of the activity. When you're the MobAI, please gather information and suggest it for the navigator to consider. In this example, I will be our first, I'll be our first driver. And I'll pretend that Miho Sensei is with me as our first navigator, and that Tomoko Sensei is with me as our first MobAI. And I will set a 3-minute timer with a noise at the end, because when this is going well, we lose track of time. And you can choose what your time is, but please, when you pick people next to you, set a timer. I'll start 3 minutes. And I say, okay, I'm the driver. Miho Sensei, what's our vision? And we might discuss for a while. In this example, Miho Sensei says, let's make a visual story of moving from working individually to cross-functional teamwork. I say, great, how should I do that? And Miho Sensei says, do you know the Dragon Quest or Dragon Warrior video game? I go, yeah, I played that when I was a kid and I liked it a lot. She says, let's make it look like that. And then I, as the driver, might write, okay, like Agile Quest. I prepared this in advance, but imagine this is happening in real time. And Miho Sensei says, that's a good idea. Joe, how would you explain a group of people working alone, like Agile Quest? Okay, well maybe Agile Quest, we have a designer, a developer, and a tester, and we're out on an adventure together. And Tomoko Sensei is our MobAI. And she's asked AI to generate Dragon Quest style pictures of a designer. And this is what MobAI gave her. And a developer. And test and operations. I go, those are fantastic, Tomoko Sensei. Please keep collaborating with AI on that kind of thing. Whatever your prompt is, it's great. These are cute, and I think they explain it well. And Miho Sensei says, okay, well, what's the problem with people working alone? And I say, well, in old role-playing games, you sometimes could make a team of like all warriors, but you couldn't win some quests if you didn't have someone who knew magic. And sometimes there were different kinds of magic that only certain people could do, so you needed a mixed team. She says, I understand that, but think about Agile. When people actually work together, on one screen at one time, not separately, what happens? And I say, by traveling together and not alone, the team begins to understand the basics of each other's skills. And Tomoko Sensei types that into AI, and she says, I have some more images for you to consider. And she says, maybe these are cross-functional images. These happen to come from Grok's Imagine. We have this movement towards from a designer to full stack. And the timer's up. So now I play the navigator. Tomoko Sensei is the driver, and Miho Sensei is the MobAI. And we set the next 3 minutes, if we think that's still the right amount of time. And I propose, let's talk about the product owner role. Can we talk about the advantage of having a product owner that can do quick decision making, and they can respond promptly to customer feedback, and they can detect risks and increase team transparency? And Miho Sensei writes, as the driver, but the path to the treasure is unclear, and the team waits for a king to give permission for the team to change course. Back at the castle, the king asks for more reports before making any decisions. And, and Miho Sensei, as the MobAI, tries to draw that. We have a treasure on our quest, but we're not quite sure what's between us and the treasure. And if the team has to ask for permission from someone far away before they change course, of course there'd be slowdown. And the MobAI generates us image of a bored king that's far away from the team making decisions. Well, what would be the good result here? Our driver writes, our brave heroes convince the king to join the traveling company and participate in the quest. The king remembers their old skills, becomes a fit warrior king, and skillful again. And this is what our AI image generator thought the product owner would look like in this story. And the result is we have a visual story of the goal that I proposed, which is understand what benefits an agile team might bring to the business. And we built that with the 3 roles of MobAI. Some hints to make this more valuable. Try not to copy and paste from AI, or else we're actually just training AI to better replace us as humans. What I recommend is what I did at Tesla. The driver actually does the work. Whoever's collaborating with AI does it for ideas and for images and fact-checking. But the driver actually does it. Please try not to copy and paste from AI. In my goal of MobAI, increasing the human knowledge and skills is more important than just the speed of task completion. Then the second hint that I'd like to share is truly the more fun it is, the more people will actually want to keep doing it. And it might feel slow or awkward in the very beginning. You're working with 2 people you may or may not know well. You're trying to decide which AI to use. You're trying to decide what to build. But if you actually kept it up for 45 minutes and then took a 15-minute break, you don't have to do it all 45 minutes. I think you'd be really surprised by how far you got and how high quality the idea is, even more than when you work alone with AI. If any of you, some of you might not work alone with AI. But I think you'll be surprised how working with a group of humans assisted by AI very quickly makes a high quality result. So I'll invite you to try it. I'll zoom in here, and you do need to decide what to build. And whoever you decide is your first navigator, they get to pick. But you do need to decide. And I hope it's something you can make with the things you have in this room, so probably your phone. Maybe you make a song. Maybe you make a very simple piece of software. Maybe you make a visual story of MobAI. You can use my example, a story, to understand what benefits an agile team uses to the business, but you can do something else. And what I'll do is set a 23-minute timer. And at the end of 23 minutes, I hope you and 2 other people have played driver and navigator and MobAI. I hope you've really tried the roles. And I hope you have something done, whatever it is. And at the end of 23 minutes, I'll ask you to share it with each other. Please begin. Frequently asked questions. So I've done this exercise, I think, with around 4,000 people now. Hopping around and, yeah, yay, okay. And some questions frequently come up. And some of these might be useful to you too. This is what I think I've learned. First is a lot of people say, okay, I liked it, but my boss is gonna say, or my manager, or the head of my company, isn't it inefficient for everyone to work on the same task at the same time? What can I say back to them? Even if they've done it and they're convinced, they say, well, how can I convince the others who will say I don't get to do it? My best reply so far is, at first glance, it might seem inefficient, but when everyone focuses on the same task and collaborates by sharing ideas, problems are solved faster and overall efficiency improves in the end. People then often ask, well, surely I couldn't use this for all work. What types of tasks are suited for this type of work? The best reply I have so far is, MobAI is effective not only for software development, but also for tasks like defining requirements, problem solving. It's particularly useful in situations that require multiple perspectives or early feedback, as it helps accelerate consensus and reduces work. Additionally, it facilitates knowledge sharing among team members, which helps close skill gaps. My personal opinion is, that's what I think they can say to their manager or their head of engineering or their client. My feeling is, this is the only way to make humans still valuable as AI gets better. Like, this is the answer, I hope, to why shouldn't we just fire 4,000 people and replace it with AI? I hope it's because MobAI is my hope to increase the quality and speed of human strengths and intentionally not replace humans. So that's actually why I want it to be used, or something like it. And I hope it's used for all work, so humans who want to work can for at least several more years. What should we do when there's disagreement among team members? When disagreements come up, I recommend the team discuss solutions with the navigator and other members. It's also helpful to try prototypes or use database decisions to quickly gather feedback in a short period. What level of detail should the navigator's instructions have? The level of detail in instructions should vary based on the driver's skill level. If the driver is a beginner at this skill, maybe give specific instructions. If the driver is experienced at this skill, maybe give general, broad directions. When you're in the driver role, do you only respond to the navigator, or do you give input or not? At least in the very beginning, the driver should focus on doing the work and refrain from giving input to maintain the team's flow. This allows the navigator to settle into their role, get used to their role, and manage the overall progress. And I think in the beginning it improves efficiency. After the team is comfortable with the idea, of course, the roles dissolve away. In Tesla, there wasn't a driver, a navigator, and a MobAI. It was groups of people managing themselves, and it worked quite well. So these roles of driver, navigator, and MobAI are my concept to introduce the concept, to introduce the way of working. For example, think about driving a car. The driver might be focused on the steering wheel and operating the vehicle. Meanwhile, the navigator is looking at the map and planning the route to their destination. If the driver were to try to navigate while driving, their attention would be divided, increasing the risk of making a driving error. Conversely, if the navigator were to interfere while driving, confusion could arise. Similarly, in a mob, the driver focuses on the task at hand, while the navigator and other members consider the overall direction, keeping the entire team moving smoothly. With the driver focused on the task, the team can clearly separate roles and work efficiently, ultimately achieving a higher quality product faster. So then I'm often contacted after these workshops, and they say, I want to introduce MobAI, but when I make a proposal, someone says, wouldn't it be better to have one person perform multiple tasks in parallel than multiple people performing one task? How should I convince them? So Bill is saying for the whole company, how much of this can we do in parallel? So yes, it does. But Bill wasn't talking to one person or even one team. He was talking to the company. And I think the idea is one mission, one team. Seems to work well. One quest, one team, to your point. So I don't know if you can read it when it's this small. I'll zoom in a minute. But what would your answer be? Anybody? Oh, I saw a hesitant hand. Yeah, can I get a mic to you? There. Thank you very much.
Well, my understanding is that the human brain isn't very good at doing things in parallel, inherently.
Yeah, the context switching loss. Folks that care about agile and the idea of teamwork and cross-functionality are often more familiar with the idea of context switching loss. But a lot of people that aren't in the agile community often don't know about that. So we might need to introduce that idea, context switching loss, or something like it. Does anyone else feel brave? I see a hand. Thank you. Oh, hey. Oh, and that's my response. Would you say it again to the microphone?
Oh, yeah. Why not try?
That is my response. And a few companies have. Some of you might have heard of Fujitsu in Japan. They did. They tried it. And what they found is with similar work, one assigned to individuals working alone and another assigned to a mob team at a time, is the mob team actually took a little bit more time, just a little bit, but a little bit more time. But then when they checked the work for defects, the mob work had 0 defects. It had been reviewed as they were making it. You know, you have multiple eyes on it at once, and also the AI being interacted with at once. And when it was individuals, whether they were working with AI or not, there were defects. And when the time was also measured to fix the defects, the mob AI per person was the fastest work they'd ever measured in Fujitsu. But the only way they knew is because they just tried it. And the reason it was faster is likely related to context switching loss and also having multiple eyes on it at once. You essentially have product review as you're going. But that's exactly it. You can do mob with physical work, like in Tesla, building cars, unloading trucks. This is Tesla. This is Neuralink. And these are many mob AI teams together, and they're actually swarming right now. They're coming together to try to solve a problem all at once, but they spend most of the time working near each other. And of course, you can do it remotely. This is me with the teams at Hunter. So there's me wearing an awesome hat. And these are all Hunter employees. And we're doing Mob Remote together. We have a shared desktop, and we're taking turns sharing our screen. Some of you work with CRISP. They work all over the world. They have an office in Stockholm. And actually this Friday, one of CRISP's clients said, can we do a day of MobAI together with Joe because he's in town? And I said, yes, absolutely. So the CRISP consultants and I will be, actually, sorry, Gothenburg Friday, but then Stockholm Monday and Tuesday. Monday's a public workshop. Tuesday's another private company that booked it. Everyone at CRISP is familiar, but if your company wants to collaborate with CRISP on MobAI, they do know about it. Michael Gosse is one. And then also my social media, you can contact it. I don't mean to sell you anything. I mean, if this is interesting to you, you can reach out to somebody here in Sweden, and I collaborate with them too. Also, you fully have my permission to use MobAI, of course, but also even to teach it and introduce it. And I've shared this board, which has the MobAI materials I used, and then that presentation I gave at the top. I shared this board with Pontus, and I said, please consider sharing it with the attendees. And you have my permission to use this. Feel free to introduce MobAI, or even rename it if you want to. My goal is that humans have work they want to do for much, much, much longer, even as AI skill ramps. And this is my theory to try to make that, I hope, happy future come true. Everyone, thank you very much for doing MobAI with me.